For all intents and purposes, the NBA is doing better than ever. Whether in terms of the dollars coming in or the product on the court, it looks like the association is in store for its own version of the Roaring '20s. And yet, some owners are reportedly prepared to jeopardize that momentum in pursuit of a hard salary cap, or upper spending limit per the PR spin version. That's apparently a non-starter for the players, which is understandable because not only is a hard cap unnecessary, it could be downright detrimental. The NBA already has a salary cap, which rises in line with basketball-related income, but teams can exceed that soft limit to re-sign and retain their own players. There are also various exceptions available to over-the-cap teams based on how far over the cap they are. Exceed the cap by enough, and teams begin to pay a luxury tax. Depending on how far over the tax threshold a team is and whether they qualify as repeat tax offenders, teams pay anywhere from $1.50 to $4.75 per dollar spent over the threshold. The NBA then redistributes all that tax money to the teams not paying the tax. For 2022-23, the projection is that 10 tax teams will end up contributing nearly $700 million to be dispersed among 20 non-taxpayers.
Caring is caring. I thought you might say that.
According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, the owners are pursuing a hard spending limit in the next collective bargaining agreement. While a source on the players' side reportedly told Mark Stein players would rather a work stoppage before they agree to a hard cap. Now, the owners want you, and the players, to believe that the current model, where a team like the Warriors can spend more than $370 million on salary and tax expenditures in the same league where the Pacers are spending less than $100 million, isn't sustainable. They also argue a hard cap would mean more competitive balance and thus more revenues for a more marketable league. But what they're peddling is BS. Sure, in theory, a hard limit that fully caps every team would help foster competitive balance. But as we explained on last week's episode of Unfiltered, this is already the most balanced the league has ever been on the court, and we didn't need a hard cap to get here. Roughly half the league's teams fancy themselves finals contenders. Even with rules in place to guarantee competitive balance, no league would be able to do better than that. As for the topic of revenues and that whole unsustainable model argument, let's just say it doesn't hold up. If you think those numbers are eye-popping, remember that the NBA's next media rights deal, which will kick in for the 2025-2026 season, is expected to be worth at least double the current deal, which already delivers the league nearly $2.7 billion per season.
Well, that's a big number.
Teams and owners are going to continue making money hand over fist. What this really seems to be about is looking for ways to spend less of that money. The league's cheapest owners want to hide behind the ideal of competitive balance without actually spending the money necessary to guarantee it for themselves. Cry as some may about the Warriors' ability to spend astronomical sums in comparison to small market teams, but it wouldn't be an issue if billionaire owners stopped treating their multi-billion-dollar sports franchises like mom and pop shops. Sure, larger markets can produce more revenue, but that shouldn't matter in a league where the smallest market franchises are owned by people worth 20 plus and 4 plus billion respectively. Even if you ignore the fact the NBA has already achieved unprecedented competitive balance, if every owner actually cared about leveling the playing field, they would spend like hell to level it, not ask others to spend less. Hard cap or not, there will always be owners willing to spend to the absolute limit, and then those who try to nickel and dime their way to success.
60, 80, 100, 120, 140.
Most concerning of all, a hard cap can backfire and punish the most well-run teams, including small market squads. Without the ability to exceed the cap to retain its own players, a team that drafts and builds well would eventually face the reality of losing homegrown stars because the NBA won't let them pay all of them. Though perhaps that's music to some owners' ears, as it gives them another excuse to be frugal. When the Thunder balked at paying James Harden the max back in 2012 because it would have made them a tax-paying team for years to come, those paying attention lambasted the team's ownership group, who collectively are worth billions. Well, a hard cap gives similar-minded owners an easy out. It incentivizes lowball offers and team-friendly contracts. and adds to the narrative that the burden of sacrificing for the greater good should be on the players rather than on the owners who could otherwise just spend to keep teams together. Perhaps one idea could be to limit bird rights so that teams could only exceed the cap to re-sign players they drafted or originally signed as undrafted free agents. But that's not a hard cap. Some argue a hard cap would give less glamorous markets more of a chance in free agency because there would generally be less star clustering around the league. But there are other ways to encourage market equality. For example, rather than hard capping teams, why not remove the limit on individual salaries? If a team wanted to pay LeBron James or Giannis Antetokounmpo 60% of the cap, let them. They'd then have to figure out how to fill out the rest of their rosters under the current soft cap rules, but the most valuable stars would finally be paid what they're actually worth. And nothing would be stopping a non-destination market from presenting a superstar with an offer they can't refuse. Look, no one's saying the league shouldn't always explore ways to improve with eyes to the future, including when it comes to the CBA and the cap. It's just that a hard cap would feel more like a step back than a leap forward.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.